The silence at Silver Crest Shooting Academy was deafening as Naomi Jackson's final shot found its mark. 20 pairs of disbelieving eyes darted between the perfect target and the black woman holding the Glock 19 with unshakable steadiness. Harrison Wells' face drained of color as his son's championship record shattered before him, broken by the woman he'd dismissed with a fake waiting list just days earlier. The whispers that had followed her through those hallowed halls now died in throats gone dry with shock. No one saw the slight tremble in Naomi's hand as she set down her weapon, not from nerves, but from the electric current of justice finally served. In that crystallized moment, everything changed, not just the numbers on the scoreboard, but the very foundation of who belonged and who decided. Some barriers aren't broken, they're obliterated with surgical precision. Before we go any further, let me know in the comments where in the world you're watching from. Drop your city. Have you ever walked into a room and felt every eye judging you? That moment when your qualifications mean nothing compared to your skin color? Stay with me to see what happens when excellence speaks louder than prejudice. This is a story you won't forget. Hit that subscribe button right now to join a community that celebrates breaking barriers. The Silver Crest Shooting Academy wasn't just any range. It was where judges practiced alongside police chiefs, where politicians honed their skills away from public eyes, and where the elite of law enforcement maintained their certifications. Its reputation for exclusivity was matched only by its state-of-the-art facilities. Naomi had waited months to secure an appointment just to apply for membership, calling in favors from former colleagues who had mostly forgotten her name. As she pushed through the entrance, the cool air conditioning hit her face along with the unmistakable scent of gun oil and leather. The lobby was designed to impress, with trophy cases displaying shooting awards and historical firearms under soft lighting. 3 men in the corner, deep in conversation, paused to track her movement across the marble floor. Their expressions shifted from curiosity to dismissal in seconds. At the reception desk, a young white woman with a perfect blonde ponytail looked up, then past her, as if expecting to see someone else. "Can I help you?" she asked, her tone suggesting Naomi might have taken a wrong turn. "I have an appointment with Mr. Wells." Naomi Jackson. She kept her voice steady, professional, the same voice she'd used at crime scenes when others panicked. The receptionist's eyebrows lifted slightly. "Oh, you're Ms. Jackson." The surprise in her voice made it clear what she'd been expecting. "Not this. Not her. Dr. Jackson, actually," Naomi corrected gently. The PhD in forensic science had cost her a decade of night classes while working full-time. She wouldn't let it be erased here. "Of course. Please have a seat. Mr. Wells is finishing up a lesson." Naomi settled into a leather chair, back straight, legs crossed at the ankle. Her mother's voice echoed in her head. "Sit like you belong, even when they try to tell you that you don't." Across from her, a wall of photographs documented Silver Crest's history. 50 years of white men in shooting stances, their faces serious, their accomplishments meticulously captioned. Harrison Wells entered the lobby 20 minutes after her scheduled appointment time. At 65, the retired police chief still carried himself with the authority of someone used to being obeyed. His gaze swept over Naomi, registering surprise before his face settled into practiced neutrality. "Miss Jackson? I wasn't expecting." He trailed off, catching himself. "Dr. Jackson," she corrected again, rising to extend her hand. "Thank you for meeting with me." His handshake was brief, barely a touch. "Let's talk in my office." Wells' office was a shrine to his career, photos with governors and senators, certificates of achievement, and behind his desk, a display case with his service weapon and badge. Naomi recognized the tactical position of his desk, back to the wall, clear view of the door. Old habits. "So," he began, not offering her a seat, "you're interested in membership?" "Yes. I've completed the application and included my qualifications." She handed him the folder she'd prepared. Inside was her resume detailing 15 years with the Phoenix Police Department's forensics unit, her shooting scores from the academy, top of her class, and letters of recommendation from former colleagues. Wells flipped through it with the cursory attention of someone who had already made up his mind. "Impressive on paper," he said, emphasis on the last three words. But Silver Crest is about more than just qualifications. It's about fit, community, shared values. The coded language wasn't subtle. Naomi had heard variations of it throughout her career. I understand community is important, she replied. I was part of the law enforcement community for 15 years. Were you? He closed the folder. Your application says you're a high school teacher now. Science teacher. After my injury, I couldn't continue field work. Her hand moved instinctively to her shoulder. But I maintained my skills. That's why I'm here. Wells leaned back, studying her with the evaluating gaze of someone looking for a reason to say no. Unfortunately, our membership is currently at capacity. We have a waiting list, of course. I can add you, but it might be. He made a show of considering. 6 to 8 months. Naomi kept her expression neutral despite knowing the lie for what it was. Just last week, she'd overheard a colleague at school mentioning his brother joining Silver Crest without any weight. I see, she said. And is there a way to demonstrate my skills? Perhaps as a trial member? Wells shook his head. That's not how we operate. Membership first, then facility access. He stood up, signaling the end of the conversation. I'll have Caitlin add you to the waiting list. As they returned to the lobby, a commotion near the entrance caught their attention. A group of men entered, laughing loudly, shooting equipment slung over their shoulders with casual confidence. At their center was a younger version of Harrison Wells, same build, same walk, but with the added swagger of someone who had never been told no. Dad, he called out, spotting them. Finished with the Jefferson account. He's signing up for the platinum package. Harrison's demeanor transformed instantly, pride replacing the cool dismissal he'd shown Naomi. Tyler, excellent work. He turned to Naomi with a perfunctory gesture. My son, Tyler, runs our membership program and 3-time state champion. Tyler barely glanced at Naomi before asking, new member? Waiting list, Harrison replied, the subtext clear. Tyler's eyes flicked over her, taking in her neat business casual attire, lingering momentarily on her face with unveiled skepticism. Right? Well, good luck with that. He turned to his father. We're heading to the precision range. Jenkins brought his new SIG. As they walked away, Naomi heard one of them mutter, since when does Silver Crest have a diversity initiative? Followed by poorly suppressed laughter. The receptionist avoided eye contact as she mechanically took Naomi's contact information for the waiting list. Both women knew it was a formality that would lead nowhere. We'll be in touch, she said, the standard lie of polite rejection. Naomi nodded, refusing to let her disappointment show. As she turned to leave, she noticed a woman watching her from near the training room entrance. Asian, early 30s, with the focused gaze of someone who didn't miss details. Unlike the others, her assessment didn't feel dismissive, it felt like recognition. The woman stepped forward as Naomi approached the exit. Excuse me, she said quietly. I'm Grace Chun, one of the instructors here. Naomi Jackson. They shook hands, Grace's grip firm and confident. I couldn't help overhearing. Harrison gave you the capacity speech. Naomi's mouth tightened. Among other things. Grace glanced around before lowering her voice. The waiting list is fictitious for certain applicants. I've seen your type of rejection before. My type. The kind where qualifications don't matter as much as. Grace gestured vaguely at Naomi. As fitting the Silver Crest image? Naomi finished for her. Grace nodded. It took me 2 years and an Olympic trial qualification before they considered me for an instructor position. Even now, some members request another trainer when they see me. Something passed between them, the shared understanding of those who navigated spaces not designed for them. I appreciate the honesty, Naomi said, but I'm not sure why you're telling me this. Grace handed her a business card. Because there might be another way in. If you're as qualified as your application suggests, you should know about the Silver Crest Invitational next Saturday. Naomi studied the card. A competition? With a $25,000 prize and automatic membership for the winner. The catch? You need a current member to sponsor you. Grace smiled slightly. I happen to be a member with sponsorship privileges. The offer hung between them. Unexpected solidarity in a place built on exclusion. Why would you help me? Naomi asked. Grace's expression hardened slightly. Because I'm tired of watching Harrison decide who belongs based on his narrow vision. Because things only change when we make them change. She checked her watch. I have a class in 5 minutes. Call me if you're interested. But be sure, Tyler Wells is the defending champion, and Harrison won't take kindly to anyone challenging his son's domain. As Grace walked away, Naomi stood motionless, weighing the card in her hand against the weight of what she'd just experienced. Outside in the parking lot, she sat in her car and stared at the Silver Crest logo emblazoned on the building's facade. A silver crest with crossed rifles, traditional, authoritative, unchanging. Her phone buzzed with a text from her grandfather. How'd it go at the fancy range? At 78, Jackson Williams still texted with perfect grammar and punctuation, a trait Naomi had inherited along with his stubbornness. She started to type, not great, but stopped. She thought of her grandfather's stories about being denied entry to the shooting club near their Georgia farm despite his Vietnam service. She thought of her own career, cut short by a bullet and a system that had never truly accepted her. She thought of Grace Chun, carving out space in a world that kept trying to make her smaller. Naomi deleted her initial response and typed instead, "They don't know who they're dealing with yet. But they will." She slipped Grace's card into her wallet and started the engine. The following evening, Naomi sat at her kitchen table, Grace Chin's business card propped against the salt shaker. Her Glock 19 lay disassembled before her, each piece arranged with methodical precision. The cleaning ritual had always centered her thoughts, a meditation in oil and metal that connected her to a sense of control. Her phone showed 3 missed calls from Grace. Naomi's finger hovered over the callback button before she set it down again. The rejection at Silver Crest hadn't surprised her. It was merely the latest verse in a familiar song. But Grace's offer had caught her off guard. Alliances weren't something Naomi counted on anymore. The knock at her door came just after 8. Through the peephole, she saw Grace Chin standing on her porch, hands tucked into the pockets of a windbreaker emblazoned with the Silver Crest logo. "How did you find my address?" Naomi asked after opening the door. Grace smiled. "I have access to the application database. You don't answer your phone. Most people would take that as a hint." "I'm not most people." Grace's gaze moved past Naomi to the disassembled Glock on the table. "May I come in? I brought something you should see." In Naomi's small dining room, Grace laid out a folder containing the details of the Silver Crest Invitational. 12 competitors, 10 stages, various distances and scenarios. The top cumulative score takes everything. Naomi studied the course descriptions. This is professional-level competition. Yes, and it's by invitation only, which means Harrison controls who competes. So even with your sponsorship, he can technically veto it. Grace leaned forward. "But he won't, because I've never used my sponsorship before, and because he doesn't think you're a threat." Naomi raised an eyebrow. "You seem very invested in this." "What?" Grace's expression hardened. 3 years ago, I applied to be the head instructor at Silver Crest. Perfect qualifications, Olympic trial experience, 5 years teaching tactical shooting to federal agents. Harrison gave the position to Tyler instead, straight out of college with a basic certification. "And you stayed?" "I stayed because leaving doesn't change systems. Challenging them does." Grace nodded toward the Glock components. "Your cleaning pattern is methodical. Military or law enforcement?" "Both. My grandfather was Army, Vietnam. I was Phoenix PD, forensics unit." "Was?" Naomi unconsciously touched her shoulder. "Career-ending injury 3 years ago." Grace nodded slowly. "I did some research after we met. The West Side hostage situation. You were the officer who saved that little girl." The memory flashed behind Naomi's eyes, glass shattering, the gunman's shadow, a child's terrified face. "That's not the story they tell in the official report." "No, but it's the truth. And the truth has a way of finding daylight eventually." Grace gathered the competition papers. "The invitational is in 10 days. I can get you range time at Silver Crest to prepare, but you need to decide tonight if you're in. Like this video if you've ever needed to be twice as good to get half as far. Black excellence isn't just about achievement. It's about perseverance when the system is designed for your failure." Subscribe to see how Naomi turns discrimination into determination, and join a community that celebrates breaking barriers that were never meant to fall. After Grace left, Naomi called her grandfather. Despite the late hour, Jackson Williams answered on the second ring, his voice deep and clear as always. "Little bit late for a social call," he said, the smile evident in his tone. "I need your advice, Grandpa. About that fancy shooting club? It's complicated. Life usually is." There was a pause, the sound of a chair creaking as he settled in. "Tell me." Naomi explained the situation, the rejection, Grace's offer, the competition. Her grandfather listened without interruption, a habit from his 40 years as a postal worker after his military service. He'd always said the best letters told complete stories, and interrupting was like tearing a page before you'd read it all. "So what's holding you back?" he finally asked. "I'm not sure I want to prove myself to people who've already decided who I am." Jackson's laugh was soft. "Child, you've been doing that your whole life. The question is whether proving them wrong matters to you." Naomi closed her eyes, remembering the first time her grandfather had placed a gun in her hands. She was 12, gangly and serious, standing on their family's 5 acres outside of Macon, Georgia. The land had been in their family since just after emancipation, passed down with the same reverence as the Bible her great-grandmother had taught herself to read from. "Stand like your roots go deep," he'd told her, adjusting her stance. "Like you can't be moved unless you choose to move." He'd taught her to shoot not as a hobby, but as a birthright, the hard-won freedom to protect what was hers in a world that had tried to deny her ancestors even the right to defend themselves. "Remember when you applied to the police academy?" Her grandfather prompted now. "Everyone said it was a waste of time, that they'd never put a black woman in forensics." "I remember. And remember that shooting club in Macon? The one I couldn't join even with my service record? The one that suddenly changed its rules when you became state junior champion?" I remember. It had been her first taste of how quickly rules could change to maintain exclusion. "Some doors weren't meant for us to enter, Naomi. But that doesn't mean we stop knocking. Sometimes we knock until our knuckles bleed. Sometimes we find another way in. And sometimes," his voice took on the steel she'd inherited from him, "we build our own door." After they hung up, Naomi reassembled her Glock with practiced hands, each piece clicking into place with satisfying precision. She texted Grace, "I'm in. When do we start?" The next weekend found Naomi in her grandfather's backyard, the Georgia sun beating down as they set up targets along the tree line. At 78, Jackson Williams still moved with the purposeful efficiency of a man who had never wasted a motion or a minute. "Tell me about this competition," he said, securing a target to an old pine. Naomi explained the format as they worked: precision shooting, combat scenarios, moving targets. "Sounds like they're making sure it favors their champion." Her grandfather handed her a stack of paper targets. "So we changed the game." "How?" "By making it harder." He grinned, the lines around his eyes deepening. "When I was stationed in Nam, we trained under the worst conditions imaginable. Rain, mud, sleep deprivation. Made the real thing seem manageable by comparison." For the next 2 days, he ran her through drills that pushed beyond the competition requirements, shooting after sprints that left her lungs burning, calling unexpected course changes, creating distractions as she aimed. "Police training taught you to shoot by the book," he said. "I'm teaching you to shoot when the book gets thrown out the window." On Sunday afternoon, as they packed up the targets, Jackson nodded toward the bullet-riddled silhouettes. "You want to tell me the real reason you're doing this? Because it's not just about a club membership." Naomi paused, considering the question. "When I was shot, my partner froze. He was supposed to cover me, but he panicked. I got the girl out, but took a bullet doing it." Her hand went to her shoulder. "The department covered it up. Said I broke protocol, went in without backup. They gave him a commendation for managing the scene while I was fighting for my life in surgery." Her grandfather's expression didn't change, but his eyes darkened. "And this club?" "Harrison Wells was the chief who signed off on the report. Tyler was my partner." Understanding passed between them. "So this isn't just about membership." "No," Naomi admitted. "It's about truth. About setting the record straight." Jackson nodded slowly. Just be clear about what justice looks like to you, Naomi. Make sure you know what victory means before you start this fight. That night, as Naomi packed to return to Phoenix, her grandfather handed her a small leather case. Inside was his service medal and a faded photograph of him in uniform, standing beside 4 other black soldiers. My unit, he explained. We weren't allowed to compete in the division shooting championships, despite qualifying. They said it was organizational constraints. We knew what it really was. He touched the photo gently. Davis here, he was the best shot I ever saw. Could hit a target at 500 yards with iron sights. Went on to become a shooting instructor after the war, but could never get hired at the big facilities. Started teaching kids in his neighborhood instead. Is that why you taught me? Naomi asked. Partly, but mostly because I saw how you watched, really watched, everything around you. You had the eyes of someone born to find what others miss. He closed the case in her hands. Skill isn't just about what you can do, Naomi. It's about who taught you, and why, and what you carry forward. Our skills often come from generations of wisdom passed down through hardship. The hands that taught us to stand strong weren't just passing on techniques. They were passing on resilience, dignity, and the quiet power of excellence. Comment below about who taught you to stand tall when the world wanted you to shrink, and subscribe to honor those whose shoulders we stand upon. Back in Phoenix, Naomi began training with Grace at a small community range. The Silver Crest Invitational was now just a week away, and Grace's inside information proved invaluable. Tyler practices the standard courses, but he's gotten complacent, Grace explained, adjusting Naomi's stance slightly. His weakness is adaptation. When conditions change, he gets flustered. They worked for hours each evening after Naomi finished teaching. The science teacher by day was transforming back into the precision shooter she had once been, muscle memory awakening with each session. 3 days before the competition, Grace arranged for Naomi to practice at Silver Crest during off hours. Stepping back into the facility felt different now, not as an applicant, but as a competitor with purpose. They were setting up at the tactical range when Tyler Wells entered with 2 friends. His expression shifted from surprise to amusement when he saw Naomi. Dad mentioned Grace was sponsoring someone for the invitational. He looked Naomi up and down. Didn't mention it was a charity case. Grace stiffened beside her, but Naomi kept her expression neutral. Mr. Wells, I'm looking forward to the competition. Tyler smirked. It's a professional-level event, not a community outreach program. But hey, everyone loves a feel-good story. He nodded to his friends. Let's give the ladies some space to practice their basics. As they walked away, Grace muttered, Ignore him. He's trying to get in your head. I know. Naomi checked her Glock sights. Men like him always underestimate women like me. That's their first mistake. She raised her weapon, sighted the target, and fired. The shot struck dead center, leaving a perfect hole in the silhouette's chest. And their last, she added quietly, chambering another round. The week before the competition transformed Naomi's life into a regimented routine, teaching by day, training by night. Each evening after her students left, she would meet Grace at different ranges around the city, honing a skill set that had lain dormant for too long. Your fundamentals are exceptional, Grace observed on their 3rd night of training. Your trigger discipline is textbook perfect. My grandfather started teaching me when I was 12, Naomi explained, reloading her Glock 19 with practiced efficiency. He said a girl who knows her own power is impossible to intimidate. Grace nodded appreciatively. Smart man. My father had similar ideas, though my mother didn't approve. As they set up another round of targets, Grace shared her own story. Born to Taiwanese immigrants who valued education above all, she discovered shooting during college and found an unexpected sense of peace in the discipline it required. I was competing internationally by 25, Grace explained. Made the Olympic trials twice. So how did you end up at Silver Crest? Naomi asked. Grace's expression tightened. I wanted to build something lasting, train others. Silver Crest has the reputation, the connections. She adjusted her shooting glasses. What I didn't expect was becoming the perpetual diversity hire. Trotted out for photos, but passed over for advancement. Yet you stayed. I stay because every student I train changes the future of the sport. Grace positioned a target at a challenging angle. Now let's work on your unconventional shooting positions. The competition will throw curveballs. On Thursday night, their final training session was interrupted when Tyler Wells and 3 friends entered the community range. His expression shifted from surprise to calculating interest when he spotted Naomi practicing rapid target transitions. "Well, look who's putting in overtime," he called across the range. "Admirable dedication." Naomi acknowledged him with a brief nod before returning to her practice, but Tyler wasn't finished. He sauntered closer, observing her technique with exaggerated interest. Not bad for a beginner. But the Invitational isn't just about shooting stationary targets. His smile didn't reach his eyes. It's about pressure, adaptation, split-second decisions. "I'm familiar with pressure," Naomi replied evenly. Tyler's gaze lingered on her Glock 19. "Standard issue. Reliable, but basic. Nothing like the custom equipment you'll face on Saturday." "A good shooter doesn't blame her tools," Naomi said. One of Tyler's friends laughed, quickly silenced by Tyler's sharp look. "Just trying to manage expectations," Tyler said. "Wouldn't want anyone to be embarrassed." He turned to Grace. "By the way, Dad wanted me to let you know there's been a slight adjustment to Saturday's format. Email went out this afternoon." After they left, Grace immediately checked her phone. "Damn it," she muttered. "He's changed the final stage. Added a tactical scenario with movement and decision-making under time pressure." "That's not a problem," Naomi said. "I trained for that in the department. It is when it's designed to showcase Tyler's specific training. He's been practicing this exact scenario for months." Grace's fingers flew over her screen. "This is the 3rd rule change this week. First, equipment restrictions that happen to allow only guns Tyler is familiar with, then scoring adjustments that favor his shooting style, and now this." Naomi absorbed this information calmly. "My grandfather would say if they're changing the rules, it means they're scared." Grace looked up from her phone. "I'm filing a formal protest with the board. Harrison can't keep." "No," Naomi interrupted. "Let them make their changes." "But it's not fair." "It was never going to be fair, Grace." Naomi began packing up her equipment. "But now we know exactly how worried they are." That night, Naomi received a text from an unknown number. "Heard you're competing Saturday. Good luck. You'll need it." Attached was a video of Tyler practicing the newly announced tactical course, his performance flawless. Instead of responding, Naomi called her grandfather. "They're changing the rules," she told him. "Setting up obstacles I didn't prepare for." Her grandfather was quiet for a moment before asking, "You remember when you were 16 and that judge disqualified your target at the regional championship? Said your bullet holes were too perfectly centered to be legitimate." Naomi smiled at the memory. "You drove 4 hours to confront him with my previous targets. And what did I tell you afterward? That sometimes the playing field isn't level, so we have to aim even straighter." "Exactly." His voice softened. "Naomi, there's something else you should know. I made some calls about Harrison Wells. Back in '89, he was involved in a shooting review board that cleared 3 officers who killed an unarmed black teenager. The evidence was questionable." Naomi's grip tightened on her phone. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because you need to understand who you're dealing with. This isn't just about a competition to him. Men like Wells spend their lives building systems that keep people like us out. When you challenge that system, you challenge everything he believes about himself." The day of the Silver Crest Invitational dawned clear and cool. Naomi arrived early, dressed in a simple black polo shirt and tactical pants. Her Glock 19 was cleaned to perfection, her ammunition carefully selected. She had spent the morning in meditation, centering herself for what was to come. The parking lot was already filling with expensive vehicles sporting gun manufacturer decals and shooting team logos. As she walked toward the entrance, she felt the weight of stares following her progress, some curious, some dismissive, a few openly hostile. Inside, the club had been transformed. Electronic scoring systems flashed from multiple displays, and a staging area had been set up for competitors. Camera crews from local sports channels and shooting publications circulated among the gathering crowd. Grace met her near the registration desk. "They've seated you last," she said without preamble. You'll shoot after everyone else. Maximum pressure. Naomi nodded, unsurprised. Anything else I should know? Harrison's brought in 3 retired police chiefs as special judges for the tactical stage. All former colleagues of his. Grace handed her a competitor's bib. I've documented everything. If they try anything blatant, I'm going public. As Naomi pinned on her number, Harrison Wells approached, flanked by club board members. His expression was pleasantly neutral, but his eyes were cold. Ms. Jackson, I'm impressed by your persistence. He extended his hand with calculated politeness. We're honored to have such a diverse field of competitors today. Naomi shook his hand briefly. Thank you for the opportunity, Chief Wells. His eyebrow lifted slightly at the title. Former chief. But you knew that, of course. Yes, I make it a point to know who I'm dealing with. Something passed between them, an unspoken acknowledgement that this was more than a shooting competition. Harrison broke the tension with a practiced smile. Well, best of luck. The competition begins in 30 minutes. First stage is precision shooting at 25 yards. He glanced at her Glock 19. Standard equipment against custom match-grade pistols. That will be challenging. As he walked away, Tyler approached, surrounded by supporters. He nodded to Naomi with exaggerated sportsmanship. May the best shooter win. That's the plan, she replied evenly. Grace introduced Naomi to the other competitors, 11 men ranging from local champions to retired military. Most offered perfunctory handshakes, clearly writing her off as token diversity. Only one, a former Marine named Rodriguez, showed genuine respect. Saw you practicing yesterday, he said quietly. That group size at 30 yards was impressive. Don't let these politics distract you. As the competitors gathered for the rules briefing, Naomi felt a strange calm settling over her. The familiar weight of her Glock at her hip reminded her of all it represented, her grandfather's lessons, her years of service, and the truth she carried. Whatever happened today, she would shoot straight and true. Black excellence isn't just about proving others wrong. It's about proving ourselves right. Too often we're forced to be extraordinary just to be acknowledged, to break records just to get through doors. Hit that subscribe button right now to witness a moment of triumph that's been generations in the making, and join a community that celebrates breaking barriers that were never meant to fall. The competition began with precision shooting, 12 competitors taking turns at identical targets. Tyler shot early, posting an impressive score that drew appreciative applause. When Naomi's turn finally came, the crowd had grown restless, many assuming the final competitor was merely a formality before Tyler's victory ceremony. She approached the line with measured steps, aware of the cameras, the whispers, the doubt. Setting her stance, she felt her grandfather's voice guiding her. Stand like your roots go deep. She raised her Glock, sighted the target, and began her sequence. Each shot was deliberate, perfect. The crowd's whispers faded, replaced by a growing silence as shot after shot found its mark with unerring precision. When she finished, even Harrison Wells couldn't conceal his surprise at the tightly grouped holes centered in the target. The electronic scoreboard flashed her results, tied for first with Tyler Wells after stage 1. The competition had just begun. By the 6th stage of the competition, the crowd had transformed. What began as polite disinterest in the unknown black woman competitor had evolved into focused attention. Naomi remained neck and neck with Tyler through each challenge, their scores separated by fractions of points. The whispers changed too. Who is she? Where did she train? Is she ex-military? Harrison Wells' expression had hardened from dismissive to concerned as he consulted with the judges between stages. The camera crews, initially focused exclusively on Tyler, now split their attention, capturing Naomi's flawless execution as she navigated each course. During a brief break, Naomi stood alone, hydrating and centering herself for the next stage. She overheard 2 spectators nearby. She looks familiar, one said. I swear I've seen her somewhere. Tyler approached, his casual confidence now strained around the edges. Impressive performance, he offered, loud enough for onlookers to hear. You've clearly had some training. Naomi met his gaze steadily. 15 years with Phoenix PD. Phoenix, A flash of recognition crossed his face, quickly suppressed. Interesting. I did some training with their tactical unit a few years back. I know. Naomi's voice remained neutral. I remember. Tyler's smile faltered. Before he could respond, Harrison called him away for a consultation. The ninth stage featured moving targets, silhouettes that appeared unpredictably across the range. Tyler posted an exceptional score, hitting 48 of 50 possible points. The crowd erupted in applause as he exited the course. When Naomi's turn came, she entered a different mental space, the hyper-awareness she developed during her years in law enforcement. Each target became not cardboard but a decision point, each shot a deliberate choice rather than a mechanical action. When the final score flashed, she had matched Tyler exactly, 48 points. Harrison's voice was noticeably strained as he announced the standings before the final stage. Ladies and gentlemen, after 9 stages, we have a tie for first place between our defending champion Tyler Wells and Naomi Jackson. A murmur rippled through the crowd. This wasn't the expected script for the day. The final stage, Harrison continued, will be the tactical decision course. Competitors will move through a scenario involving multiple target identification, cover utilization, and time pressure. As a reminder, this counts for 30% of the total score. Grace appeared at Naomi's side. They've modified it again, she whispered. Added hostage targets that require split-second discrimination. Tyler practiced this exact layout yesterday. Naomi nodded, unsurprised. Good. Good. Grace looked confused. Hostage scenarios were my specialty. For the first time that day, Naomi allowed herself a small smile. Sometimes the universe has a sense of irony. As Tyler completed the course with near-perfect execution, Rodriguez leaned toward Naomi. Wells designed this to be unbeatable for anyone who hasn't seen it before. No shame if you need to play it safe. Playing it safe isn't why I'm here. Naomi checked her Glock one final time. Sometimes the only way forward is through the fire. When her name was called, Naomi approached the starting position with measured steps. The tactical course sprawled before her. Walls creating rooms and corridors, targets positioned at various depths, some partially concealed, others designed to test shoot/no-shoot decision-making. Exactly the kind of high-pressure scenario she had navigated countless times in her former life. Competitor ready? The judge asked. Naomi nodded, settling into her stance. Course hot in 3, 2, 1. The buzzer sounded, and Naomi moved. Each step was deliberate, yet fluid. Her transitions between positions seamless. She identified threats and non-threats instantaneously, her shots finding center mass on hostile targets while avoiding civilians. The muscle memory from years of tactical training guided her body as her mind remained clear, present, calculating. In the final room, she encountered the scenario's trap, a hostage situation with a target partially obscured behind an innocent. The shot required threading a needle between silhouettes, a test of nerve and precision. Naomi slowed her breathing, recalled her training, and squeezed the trigger once. The bullet passed through the exact center of the threat target's head, leaving the hostage untouched. As she cleared her weapon and turned toward the exit, she caught sight of a man in the crowd. Older, face weathered by years, but eyes sharp with recognition. "My God," he said, loud enough for nearby spectators to hear. "You're the officer from the West Side hostage situation." The words hung in the air as the final scores were tallied. Harrison looked sharply at the man who had spoken, then back at Naomi, his expression shifting from confusion to dawning realization. The head judge approached the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have our results. The winner of the Silver Crest Invitational, with a combined score setting a new club record, is Naomi Jackson." The applause was genuine but confused, particularly from those who had expected Tyler's routine victory. As Naomi stepped forward to accept the trophy, the man who had recognized her pushed to the front. "It is you," he said, his voice carrying. "You're the one who saved my granddaughter at West Side Elementary. You took a bullet protecting her." Silence fell across the room. Harrison Wells went rigid. Tyler's face drained of color. Naomi met the man's eyes. "Mr. Alvarez, how is Maria doing?" "Thriving. Thanks to you." He turned to the crowd. This woman ran into an active shooter situation when others froze. She shielded my 7-year-old granddaughter with her own body. Harrison stepped forward. This is hardly the time or place. It's exactly the place, Rodriguez interrupted, moving to stand beside Naomi. Because I remember that incident too. I was on the review board. The official report didn't match witness statements, but it was pushed through anyway. He looked directly at Harrison. Why you? Tyler's voice cut through the tension. Dad? What is he talking about? Harrison's professional mask slipped. This is a private club matter. It stopped being private when you falsified a police report, Grace said, holding up her tablet. I've been documenting everything. The rule changes, the bias judging, and now this connection. The club members and spectators had formed a loose circle around them, the competition forgotten as a more significant drama unfolded. Naomi spoke clearly, addressing the room. 3 years ago, I responded to an active shooter at Westside Elementary. My partner, she looked directly at Tyler, was instructed to cover me. Instead, he froze. I entered alone, located a child in danger, and took a bullet protecting her. Her hand went to her shoulder. The official report, signed by Chief Wells, stated I violated protocol and acted recklessly. My career ended while my partner received a commendation for managing the scene. Tyler stared at his father, then back at Naomi. Is that true? Harrison's face hardened. The department made its determination based on available evidence. Available evidence. Mr. Alvarez stepped closer. My granddaughter told everyone what happened. She said the lady officer saved her when the man officer wouldn't come inside. A board member moved forward, Senator Williams, one of the club's most influential members. Harrison, is this accurate? Did you modify official records to protect your son? The silence that followed was answer enough. Sometimes our greatest victory isn't just winning the game. It's changing how the game is played. When excellence breaks through barriers built to keep us out, it doesn't just create space for one person. It creates possibility for everyone who follows. Subscribe now for more stories of breaking barriers that were never meant to fall. Remember, excellence is the best response to exclusion. 6 months later, Naomi stood in Silver Crest's main training room, watching as 20 students, a diverse group including 8 women and 9 people of color, completed their certification course. As the newly appointed Director of Training Development, she had transformed the Academy's approach to instruction and membership. The changes hadn't come easily. After the competition, Tyler had resigned from the club, later issuing a public apology and entering counseling for PTSD related to the West Side incident. Harrison had been forced to step down when a board investigation uncovered years of discriminatory membership practices. The club had settled a substantial civil claim with Naomi, but more importantly, had committed to institutional change. Grace, now heading the competition program, entered with a smile. The board approved your scholarship proposal. 10 full memberships annually for qualified applicants from underrepresented communities. Naomi nodded, satisfaction warming her chest. My grandfather always said true victory isn't just about winning today's battle. It's about changing tomorrow's landscape. As she watched her students practice, Naomi touched the scar on her shoulder. What had begun as a personal quest for vindication had evolved into something more meaningful, dismantling barriers that had kept too many people like her from opportunities they deserved. Rodriguez joined them, now a regular instructor at the academy. Senator Williams is bringing the police commissioner next week to discuss implementing your training protocols department-wide. Good, Naomi said, because this was never just about shooting. She thought of her grandfather's words the day after her victory. Sometimes justice doesn't look like what we expected. Sometimes it's bigger. As her students completed their final shooting qualification, each one demonstrating skill that would have been unimaginable at Silver Crest a year earlier, Naomi recognized the truth in those words. The most powerful change didn't come from proving them wrong. It came from creating space for others to prove themselves right. The invisible woman had become undeniable, and in her wake, doors were opening that could never be closed again. From invisible to unstoppable, Naomi's journey isn't just her story, it's our story. Every time we've been dismissed, underestimated, or pushed aside because of the color of our skin, yet stood our ground anyway. This channel exists to document these moments of Black excellence breaking through systems designed for our exclusion. If this resonated with you, don't just watch, join us. Hit that subscribe button right now to become part of a community that celebrates our victories, honors our resilience, and tells the stories that mainstream media won't. Our next video will reveal how another Black professional shattered expectations in a space where they said we didn't belong. Remember, they don't get to decide our worth. We do. Subscribe, share, and be part of the revolution of excellence that cannot be denied. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.